The King Tiger, officially known as the Tiger II, was Germany's final and the most extreme heavy tank of World War II. When it appeared in 1944, it wasn't just another tank rolling onto a battlefield, it was a symbol of absolute dominance. Germany designed it in one clear mind to make a tank powerful enough that enemies couldn't stop it head on. By this point of the war, Germany was already losing every front against the Russians and against the Allies. The Russians were crushing forward from the east, and the Allied were forcing forward in the west. Germany's cities were being bombed daily. Instead of focusing on a simple, reliable vehicle, Germany decided to double down and focus on one of the most powerful tanks possible, hoping quality could overcome the Allies' massive numbers. King Tiger was one of the results in mind. When soldiers first saw it in real life, it was the most terrifying. This tank was enormous, taller than buildings, windows wider than most roads. The weight of it was around 70 tons, which was heavier than many modern tanks. It looked less like a vehicle and more like a fortress. The armor of the King Tiger was great. The front hull was up to 150 millimeters, and the front of the turret reached over 800. When soldiers saw this in real life, it was terrifying. The tanks were enormous, taller than most buildings. The windows wider than most were. The windows wider than most roads and weighing around 70 tons, which was heavier than any modern tank. It looked less like a vehicle, more like a fortress. The armor of the King Tiger was the greatest strength. The front hull was up to 150 millimeters thick, and the front turret reached over 180 millimeters. What really made this what really made it special wasn't the thickness, it was the sloping. Instead of having a flat armor plate, the King Tiger used angled surface, which caused the enemy shells to ricochet or lose penetration power. In combat, it meant from the front, most Allied tanks couldn't simply hurt it. The American Shermans, the British Churchills, even the Soviet T-34s would fire round after round and watch as the shells bounce off or just shatter. For enemy crews, this was horrifying. Imagine shooting at a thing over and over and over again, knowing if it fired back at you once, you're probably dead. From defensive position, like holding a road or hill or a village, the King Tiger is nearly impossible, unstoppable. Now let's talk about the main weapon, because this is where the King Tiger truly earned its fearsome reputation. It carried an 88mm EWK 43L/71, one of the most powerful tank guns ever used in the war. This wasn't just a big gun, it was an extreme, accurate, and had incredible penetration at the long range, where other tanks struggled to even hit a target, and the King Tiger could destroy enemy vehicles before they even realized they were being targeted. A single shot usually enough to knock out a Sherman or T-34, often causing the ammo to explode. Many Allied crew reported back with destroyed vehicles addressing the tank. The psychologists affected mattered a lot. Even rumors that the King Tiger was nearly could slow an entire advancement if because the commander knew a frontline assault could be costly. King Tiger needed 5 crew members: a commander, a gunner, a loader, a driver, and a radio operator. On paper, it sounds organized, professional inside the tank, although it's a different story. The interior was cramped, loud, and brutally hot. The engine roared constantly, metal surface vibrating. and the communication relied on shouting or intercoms. The smell of fuel, oil, and gunpowder filled the air. During combat, the temperature inside could be unbearable, especially in the summer. The ammo was stored around the interior, which made it extremely dangerous if an enemy fire penetrated the armor, especially from the side or the rear. The tank could turn into a fireball. Many crew were killed, not by the impact itself, but by the exploding shell. Even so, German crew often trusted the tank completely. From the front, they felt almost invincible. Where everything went wrong, here is why. Despite its power, it was slow, heavy, and unreliable. The engine was simply not strong enough because they were using the same engine that they used for the Tiger ones. Not really the best option. The transmission was very weak, and the suspension struggled. Breaking down extremely was common. Long roads, marches, often ended with the tank stopped on the side of the road, unable to move. Fuel was another massive issue because they were giving all their diesel to Russia and all the other countries around it. Because of that, they were running low on gasoline, and the Tiger II was burning so much fuel at an alarming rate. Many tanks were abandoned simply because there's nothing left to keep them running. Mud, snow, and damaged roads made things even worse. Bridges often couldn't support the tank's weight. If it got stuck, recovering was nearly impossible. Crews were sometimes forced to destroy their own tank to prevent capture. Ironically, more of the Tigers were lost due to mechanical failures and fuel shortage than enemy fire. On the battlefield, it was strong but limited. The King Tiger was the best when it was used defensively, sitting down in a hole behind cover, guarding key routes, or ambushing advancement of enemies. It could dominate an entire area. The Allied forces often relied on air maneuvers to deal with it. From the side of the rear, the armor was much weaker. Fast tanks to go around and shoot it. Allied fighter bombers became like one of the most biggest threats. The plane could attack from above, where the armor is thinnest, and destroying even the strongest tanks with a rocket or a bomb. So while it is a terrifying direct combat, it was poorly suited for fast-moving, flexible warfare. Exactly the kind of war the Allies were fighting in 1944 and 1945. There was two main turret designs. The early King Tiger used a round turret, people confused with the Porsche turret. It's not a Porsche turret. The Porsche were meaning the hole, they lost the hole. What they call the Porsche turret is actually a prototype turret. It's not a Porsche. It wasn't made by Porsche at all. Never was. Which had that it was a dangerous weak stop where a shell could deflect downwards into the hole. Later versions used the Henschel turret, which made a flatter front and better protection. Most people picture this later model as the King Tiger. Only about 490 were built, which is tiny compared to the tens of thousands of Allied tanks produced. Despite all the power, the King Tiger came in too late, too small numbers. Germany lacked the fuel, air superiority, spare parts, and time. The Allied factories were producing tanks faster than a Germany and could destroy them. After even the Tiger's loss, it's nearly impossible to replace. Tanks represent a major lesson of World War II. War are not won by strength machine alone, but the logic and the numbers. The King Tiger was one of the most powerful tanks ever built, a machine that could dominate a battlefield under the right conditions. But it was a symbol of desperation, over-engineering, and strategies that no longer fit the reality of war. It's terrifying and impressive and deadly, but not enough to change history itself.